We're talking about career readiness. We're going to hear now from folks who have made that jump into a successful career. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce our alumni panel today. So Jay, Richard, and Jerita have agreed to join us today. They have all served as Up2Us coaches and have transitioned into fulfilling careers after coaching. And so I'm going to shut my mouth and just ask you all to introduce yourselves, and then we'll jump into some questions. Before I shut up though, you guys in the audience, you have the chance to ask questions too. So use that chat. We'll save the audience Q&A for the last part of this panel, but we're going to use the next 25 minutes to hear from these wonderful alumni, first with the questions that I have, and then your audience questions. But you can put those in the chat whenever they occur to you. All right, so Jay, why don't you throw your mic on and just say who you are, when you served as an Up2Us coach, what you're up to now in your career.
Awesome. So good morning or good afternoon, depending on where we're at. Definitely an honor to be here, Lee. Appreciate it. So I'm Jay. I'm with Hope for Miami, a nonprofit here in Miami. And I served with Up2Us through one of the first initiatives that they had for military veterans. As I was a veteran coming back into the workforce, I got my degree in physical education, and the opportunity came up, through that initiative to serve back in the community as a veteran. So I did that. And, I served for actually 6 months, but it was a full-time status. So I worked in a nonprofit in Overtown here in Miami for 6 months. And then I eventually moved on to Hope for Miami. And 6 years later, I am now the Vice President and Chief Operating Officer here at Hope for Miami.
It's amazing. Thank you, Jay. Take it away, Richard. Tell us who you are, when you served as a coach, and what you're up to now.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Richard Pogue from Philadelphia. I am the senior staff member and training coordinator for the Youth Mentoring Partnership, and currently the host site supervisor of our current Up2Us coaches at that site. I also serve as the coach alumni board member and a part of the auxiliary training staff for Up2Us Sports. So kind of have my hands full time with our nonprofit. Actually, I'm on my lunch break right now. I have one more class of PE to teach today, and then I have cross country practice. So always busy, always devoted to the students, every way, shape, and form.
Richard, did you bring a snack with you? I hope we didn't rob you of your lunch break. Okay. All right, make sure you feed yourself today. Jerita, tell us who you are, when you coached, and what you're up to now.
Hello, everyone. I am Jerita Mitchell. I coached from 2017 to 2019 at 2 different schools in the city of New Orleans. If you're familiar, the first school was Live Oak Elementary, and then the second school was Dolores T. Aaron. And then I transitioned into the role of program manager and now program director in New Orleans.
Yep, we're very lucky that you chose to stick around with Up2Us. I'm going to jump now into our questions for the panelists. Number one, how did serving as a coach influence your career path? Let's just use that same order. So take it away, Jay, if you're ready.
Oh man, I played sports my whole life. I played basketball here in Miami, and of course, like anybody else, I thought I was going to make it into the pro leagues. But there were different plans, and whenever I got out of the military, I was still looking to get back into the sports thing. So serving as an Up2Us coach, allowed me to see the connection that sports played in impacting my community. So when I was able to see that, and I was introduced to the nonprofit world, and the many, different things that we can do, and the positive impact that I had in my moments, with interacting with the youth, I said, I think I can stay in this career field. I think I can be a change maker, even though I'm not doing it on the field, between the lines, doing the football or basketball or something like that. So I was able to see that connection. And it was all thanks to Up2Us, and kind of like showing me, the connection of sports and being that change in the community through sports.
Awesome. Thank you, Jose.
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
So I guess for me, even before I got involved with Up2Us Sports, I was serving with another nonprofit called Students Run Philly Style, which is mentoring and long distance running. So coaching and sports and youth development and goal setting were always like a part of my life. So the transition into Up2Us with just the advanced training specifically around trauma sensitivity and social emotional learning and those other strategies is really why, I think moving forward, I'm staying in the same field because I feel passionate about what we do and there's always more to get done. So, yeah.
All you, Jerita.
Well, I guess I'm slightly the oddball out. I had no plans on working with youth. I've always worked within the community or volunteered within the community, but when I started coaching, I was actually pursuing a career as a clinical exercise physiologist. And so coaching my first year and the impact that the kids had on me. I know a lot of times we talk about the impact that the coaches had on the kids, but the impact that the kids had on me, I saw myself and a lot of the kids that I was working with, of course, being from the community and, relating to experiences, but them not having the same outlets through sports that I had, the same activities and recreation departments that doesn't exist today for them. And so that kind of shifted me into a space where I said I would coach forever, and thus shifted me into the position to be the program director for Up2Us Sports.
That's amazing. Yeah. So for some of you, it was reinforcing an idea or a goal that you might have already had, or in your case, Jerita, kind of a trajectory shift after coaching. Do you remember, Jerita, only if you can call something to mind, but do you remember like a specific moment or experience that kind of clicked something for you where you decided, maybe this is the path for me?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure plenty of people have heard this story before. My very first day coaching, I had a middle school girl come up to me and ask me, was I gonna come back tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be here. And she was like, no, are you really gonna come back tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, my contract says May. I will be here till May. And she just came back later on in the day and she was like, are you really sure you're gonna come back? Because people that we kind of like, they usually don't stick around because they say we're too bad. And I was like, I've seen bad and this isn't it. No, I'm up here. And for me, it was just that, like I said, I grew up in New Orleans. So it's like, I know what sports and my coaches have done for me. And still to this day as an adult, I'm still connected with my high school coaches. I know what those relationships have done for me, what opportunities that presented to me. And so to see that not happening, or to see kids not having those relationships with their coaches or having opportunities to be involved in sport is what really made the switch for me.
Yeah, that's powerful. I mean, I bet you would be back that next day, no matter what, after a moment like that. But that's great. So coaches out there in the audience, I'm sure you've had moments like that, or if not, they will come this service term where something clicks, I think, because there's so many experiences you have as a coach that can kind of give you that sense of direction that Jerita found. So, all right, moving along, our next question here is, did you realize anything new about yourself thanks to coaching? And so you guys have touched on that a little bit, especially Jerita, but Jay and Richard, what kind of self-realizations did you encounter as a coach?
Well, for me, it was that I needed some kind of knowledge of learning myself as far as what a coach really was. Playing basketball in the old school days, like your coach, they weren't there to kind of find out how your day was. It was to scream at you and and to bring that out of you by screaming and motivating you that way. But realizing that there's different other techniques of coaching that we kind of like miss, that are very important to our mental involvement into the sports, is key. So I learned that through the 6 months, whenever I was in touch with Miami with Love, doing that type of coaching where it's not so much about the field, but more of the person themselves and what they've been through. So that also kind of like helped me in now where my dreams right now is running prevention programs, dealing with the youth in and out of the Miami-Dade County public school system and in the community is involving some of that, finding out the youth or where they've been, where they're going, and what purpose we have in their life with what programs and what we do. So coaching them in life now. So I was able to find that out through coaching.
That's awesome. Yeah, Richard, take it away.
Yeah, so for me, I was always much of a like X's and O's, like there's going to be progress made regardless. But when I started coaching middle school track and field and cross country for students who had never really had like a really structured training program, or had never done the sport before, really what I learned was as long as they're coming back or bringing friends along and like saying like, yeah, like you should come out and try, like, yeah, it's hard at first, but like keep showing up. It really told me that like, as long as I'm providing the safe space for them to come back, all of the like tactical stuff, I can sort of shift to the side and just be more human, be more just like opening and welcoming and just letting them enjoy the process instead of explaining to them why the process is going to work. Especially coming out of 2020, where a lot of them have missed over a year and a half of like structured sports.
Yeah.
All I want them to do this year is to make it through the whole season and enjoy the fact that they get to run and compete. I'll allow myself to worry about the end results, but for them, it's just about them showing up on a regular basis and feeling okay to be there.
Yeah, putting that human element first, both for yourself and bringing it out of your youth, I think is what sports-based youth development is all about. Jerita, do you want to speak more on this, or do you feel like you covered it?
I could throw one little thing out there.
Yeah.
Something new that I recognized about myself was my purpose. And I've always known that I wanted to help people. I know I wanted to be in community health, but I couldn't quite figure out exactly what I wanted to do, right? I didn't know what group of people I wanted to work with. I knew I wanted to be within my community. I wanted to be somewhere near home. But I definitely, like I said, I never foresaw myself working with kids. When I was younger, people used to tell me that all the time. I was like, ew, no way. So for me, I definitely realized my purpose.
Yeah, totally. I think that self-knowledge that you get from service is hopefully something that lasts beyond just the 1 year or 2 years or 6 months that you coach. Next question for you guys is, which people or resources have helped you the most in your careers thus far? Go ahead, Jay.
Well, for me, the people or resources have been those individuals that embraced me, when I was a coach, with Up2Us, to tell you the truth. Like the spot where I was at in Overtown with Touching Miami with Love, I'm actually still connected with them, with the executive director there, and he was actually my mentor to one of my programs whenever that I went through. So that connection that I made with them when the time that I was there coaching, still kind of like goes on to this day, because I wanted to learn more. I wanted to learn more from him and see, how to be where he's at. And then of course, I also, for Hope for Miami, I interviewed to be a part of their program through Up2Us Coach, but they didn't pick me at that time. But full circle came around, and then they have me now. So my current supervisor, the CEO at Hope for Miami, has also been a big help, through my career and how I progressed after military life. So those individuals that played a role in getting me into coaching, into their into their organizations has still played a big part in my growth right now.
No, that's awesome. I think people are probably the most valuable resource you can have in seeking a career. That's why I wanted to make sure people get treated like a resource. You know, obviously it's a human, it's give and take, but I think surrounding yourself with people that are supportive, that inspire you, like you have, is amazing. Richard, want to speak on this? People or resources that have served you in your career?
Yeah. So in terms of people, any of my supervisors, regardless of what nonprofit I've worked for, have always sort of like scouted out and looked at not just what I'm capable of doing now, but my potential. And those opportunities and those relationships have allowed me to go a little bit further, a little bit further, and a little bit further. So really just making sure that you're aware that you don't know who's watching. Like, I didn't know that the founder of one of the nonprofits that I served for was watching exactly what I was doing in and out of practices. And that led to a job, which led to another opportunity, which led to another job, which led to another opportunity. So really just make sure that not only are you aware of like what you look like, but you never know what opportunities are going to come your way. Like, I have my coaching position now because the athletic director who I work with in his PE class was like, I have this opportunity coming up. You have a great connection with the students. I'd love to see both those things dive a little bit deeper. And now I've been doing that for 3 years. So like any of my supervisors have always been really supportive and really just aware of, you know, what's actually going on. And then to support that for years to come also allows you to build relationships within your programs generationally.
Wow, that's huge. You never know the impact that you could be making, even just on a typical day of service, the people that you'll run into. Yeah, so it sounds like Richard's always been ready for that kind of person to step into their life, and that's awesome. So Jerita, your turn now to speak on resources or people that might have supported you in your career.
Well, I am a child of the village, is what I say. But if you always hear the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. So I will just say my village as far as people are concerned, because it ranges from family to family friends to church members to my professors at school. It's so many people to, sit here and name. But as far as resources, believe it or not, I always tell people I showed up to CTI to become a better coach. And I might have slipped up and became a better person because there are things in CTI, or there are certain topics that are covered. And I've told this to all of the training team before. At the time when I first went to CTI, I was working on my master's in kinesiology and health. And so I felt like, I was just coming for a little refresher. But there are topics and things that they don't even cover in academia, as far as trauma, as far as the brain, that helped me learn a lot about myself and my behaviors to be able to help kids heal their trauma. And so a CTI is a great resource if you use it. If you take that information in and you really apply it to yourself, and then you take that and apply that to the kids that you're working with. So that has helped me just in my career, but in life in general.
Yeah, I mean, you never know where those learning opportunities will come. I mean, CTI obviously is that setting to learn about being a positive coach for youth, but you can take that and take the skills in any direction just in life. So that's great to hear. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip my next question and just go to this last one, and then we'll hear from the audience. But what advice would you three give to current coaches who are early in their careers right now? The folks in the audience. Go ahead, Jay, if you're ready.
My biggest advice, one of the biggest things that I learned, or even, with our staff that I share, is finding out your why. Why you do what you do. And when you find that out, write it down. Write it down as your personal mission statement and your vision of where you want to be. Because one of the biggest things that are, or a lot of the things that we do is we pick a job, we find something to make ends meet, or just to say, hey, I'm here. But whenever you can connect that mission and vision of that organization, that place, that job, that opportunity to what you are passionate about, you're going to be happy in doing what you do. So first looking into yourself and what you can do or what you want to do, and then find the connection. To me, that's one of the biggest things that you can do as a coach, because then you're not going to be doing it as a job, but you're going to doing it as a passion to impact and change and do something good for the community. Because the youth, they don't grow up in programs, they grow up in the community. So it's about changing that community the way that you can and the way that you have been gifted to do. So find out that why. That'll be my biggest advice.
Go ahead, Rich. I don't know why I keep calling you Rich, but
Rich
I feel like we know each other.
So I mean, Jose just hit it right on the mark with always remembering your why, because your why always brings you back to the basics and sort of keeps you grounded so you don't get lost into the day-to-day just making ends meet. But additionally to that, for me, it's being relentless with learning. Like there's always something new to learn. Sometimes I've heard the expression like an expert is someone who has stopped trying. And I don't completely agree with it, but when you find yourself like getting into it, like you think you have an expertise at a certain thing, it doesn't mean that you stop learning. It just means you know enough that you can start teaching people, but now that means that there's someone else who can still teach you. So be relentless with your learning. Always be willing to learn from who or whatever. It can be a person, it can be a situation, it can be your students, whatever the case is. And I'm going to drop the next thing in the chat to save some time, but it's going to touch on for that.
Appreciate that, because we're running a little close, but we still got some time. So go ahead, Jerita.
Be present, be genuine. I mean, Richard and Jose touched on, Jay touched on the why and those things, but keep going. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Because at the end, there is something that is great that's going to happen. So just stick with it and keep going and find time to take care of yourself, because you can't take care of others if you're not taking care of yourself.
100%, 100%. That's part of why we're here today. Look after number one, because you guys already give back so much. All right, now I'm going to squeeze in a little bit of extra time in the agenda because we want to hear from the audience. So what questions are out there right now on your minds? You can turn your microphone on and speak or use the chat, but we have another 3 or 4 minutes for questions from the audience. So let's hear it. What are you guys curious about? Richard, Jerita, and Jay have all made that step into a successful life after service. What do you want to hear from them about that journey? And if there's no questions, I'm going to ask my own question. We got one. Thanks, Brandon. In the moments when you felt alone, how did you manage? That's a great one. Sometimes those people aren't always there. Richard, go ahead.
For me, it's just putting myself in my student shoes in a way. So if I feel alone and I feel like I can't manage, sometimes we have different outs in our life as adults. Like we have a little bit more options most of the time because we're maybe our number one support. So like if I want to go somewhere, I can just go somewhere. If I want to leave a situation, I can kind of just leave a situation. Our students don't always have that amount of flexibility with their life decisions. So if I'm feeling alone, what is my kid feeling? If I'm not there today, then they're actually alone if they don't have other outlets. So just putting yourself in that situation so that you can sort of reflect and be like, okay, how can I prioritize properly so that, I can still make my mission happen while keeping myself, physically and emotionally safe, as well as the student. And then sometimes reaching out to somebody who you don't necessarily think of in the first, sort of impression. So you never know who's actually going to have a listening ear. So it's okay to be awkward and to take that step outside of your comfort zone and reach out to a coworker or a supervisor or someone just to be like, hey, I may be overstepping my bounds or blah, 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 but I need someone to listen. Are you available? And just be able to risk that in a moment, because when you reach out to a student and ask them if they need advice, you're asking them to do the same thing, essentially.
No, that's great. Like, lend yourself that support that you give to your youth. Know that others are out there willing to give it, even if it's an unexpected person. Go ahead, Jay or Jerita, whoever wants to tackle this one.
Well, I think really quick, Jerita said it like you can't take care of yourself if you are not taking care. Take care of others if you can not taking care of yourself. And one of the biggest or impactful statements that I ever heard is like a healthy person, a healthy soul asks for what it needs, right? So if you don't ask for help, if you don't talk to somebody, or like Richard was saying, hey, can you listen to me? Can you give me 5 minutes? Can you give me 10 minutes? Nobody's going to tell you, yes, I can, because you're not asking them, right? So I think a lot of us, we have to remember what we do is draining. It does drain, right? To sit there day in, day out, give what you can and give it to somebody else. But if you're not refilling your tank, like Jerita said, you can't really put it into nobody else's tank. So it's important for you to have that support system and for you to find it. So whenever you need somebody and say, okay, I can go to this person. And whenever you go to that person, thank them. And even if they don't help you out that year, send them a thank you note and say, hey, thank you for what you've done for me, because it did help. And then you're going to have that support system there whenever you need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that follow-up, that give and take, that really makes sure that, that cycle is there, not just for the moment, or that support is not there just for the moment, but moving forward, and that it goes in both directions. I think you kind of touched on it. You even said the word fill your tank, which is sort of Candonce's question. How do you show up for you? How do you make sure your cup is full? So like specifically, how do you guys care for yourselves? Everyone has their own different approach to self-care, but like, let's just hear some techniques and habits that you guys might have. Jerita, do you have one?
I'll go. I'm a bit of a science nerd, and I know that when you do certain things with your body releases certain chemicals. So I'm a runner. I will run, I don't know, at minimum 3 miles, because I know that's just like a point of, that's when I can really get a good workout in, because I've been a distance runner for so long. So I will go and run until I don't feel like running anymore. And then I will just lay and let my body do what it does.
No, I love that. Yeah, just like exerting yourself and then giving that rest. Yeah, there's no better feeling, actually. I agree. Trinity asked a really good question that I almost skipped over. So let's address this one and then move on. But I think it's a good one to end on. What were some of the biggest obstacles in your journey that you had to overcome in order to get to where you are now? Go ahead, Jay.
Well, I think, the biggest obstacle was making my experience, overshadow, like, let's say my education type of experience, or what I had. Because being in the military, I was able to get my bachelor's degree, but of course, as I moved on in my positions, they were like, well, he has this experience, but he doesn't have this education. So for me, it was a battle of allowing my experience to overshadow my education, because I think there's no better education or knowledge than the experience that you go through in life. You know, so allowing others to see me for who I was and what I brought to the table and the value. And I think Richard said it perfectly as well, you know, being ready for every opportunity that presented itself. And I think my experiences allowed me to be ready for everything, because I went from a health educator here to a program manager to a director, and now like I'm the vice president, and soon I'll be the CEO of the organization. So they saw that in me without really having the education like that everybody else has. And it's all been through the experiences that I had in life.
That is awesome. I wish every employer saw it that way. You know, those competencies, those experiences that aren't always like a degree or a bullet point on your resume, but nonetheless carry so much value in your career. And so, yeah, that's what we're all about, is helping you guys tell that story and also helping employers out there recognize the value of service and the value of experience over, you know, those hard qualifications that you would see on a resume. Rich, last word from you, and then we really got to move on.
All right, so I'll make this quick. I always tell my new hires, new coaches, my boss has never seen my resume. Real simple. Similar to Jose, like, your experience can be everything. So I had to stop thinking that I wasn't worthy of being in certain rooms with certain people. I literally had to tell myself, well, if everyone's here for the same reason, it means I deserve to be here. So getting out of your own way and appreciating where you are tells you that your experience is worth everything that you're at.
I feel like I paid you to say that, because that's a really good segue, actually. But we do have to move on. We can keep this conversation going a little bit in the chat, but I'm gonna move the agenda forward. So